Hello, welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. I'm at the World Exposition in Milan 2015. Just behind me you have one of many brands that you will see at the World's Expo, and I want to use this video feature to focus on the significance of brands and consumer space at the exposition. Okay, and so I've talked about in some of these other video features about how the World Expo has always been connected to branding. This goes back to the earliest expos well over 100 years ago. High technology, the future, and today often we think of, the future in terms of brands or properties, technological innovations. In this case we're focusing of course on food. So the first two pavilions I'm looking at here are the Alitalia and Etihad pavilions, and these are combined as one, and they're both airlines. Okay, and leaving the exterior of the building, going inside, you'll notice in quite a few of these corporate pavilions, interactive activities for children, for adults, a lot of cross-branding stuff going on. So in this case we also get the GE information that is incorporated in the airlines here. And because this is an airline pavilion, of course, all the immersive activities will focus on the fun of flying and these kinds of things. Now, I found this interesting, that if you look at the pavilion information here, they're talking about how both airlines are involved in renewable energy sources. And this is obviously for children, a quiz book that they can play around with. And so it's, I think, one of the things you see also at New Holland Agriculture, if you check out that video, this appeal to children. Planes are fun, and it's one way certainly to promote the brand. Now this was the highlight of the pavilion, this simulator, as you can see here. Pretty amazing. And then above you can actually see the flight as it's flying into the destination, and then there's the cockpit. This I thought was interesting. They have the board of the arrivals, and you notice just about every flight is on time, so that maybe is a little bit of optimism, although I'm not sure if either of these airlines are well known for their early arrivals or on-time arrivals, which they very well could be. Okay, so I'm outside one of the airline pavilions here, two airlines actually, and I went inside there, and I have to say, there are a lot of the corporate pavilions here at the Expo. This was a very interesting one. Certainly I'll show you some videos and images of some of the simulations going on. A lot of people were flocking flocking around the flight simulators, which were fairly sophisticated. But so a funny moment happened. I was going to go upstairs and check out what I thought was the exhibit up there, and two people stopped me, and I said, "Oh, well, what's wrong? I can't go up there." And they said, "No, it's like an airport lounge, and you have to have, a special class or permission to go up there." So I thought it was kind of funny, in the sense they're mimicking the first class and the business class and the passenger proletarian class, as I always travel myself, in this exhibit. So maybe an ironic or funny moment that was unintentional, but alas, I did get to go upstairs and view the high class, first class coffee lounge. Okay, and next up is Enel, which is the energy company, Italian energy company. And you can see the setup here. I didn't get any good night video, unfortunately, but you have these LED rods that are spread throughout the pavilion. And the idea is that in cooperation with the music and in incorporation with guest movements, the LED lights at night would change. And unfortunately, as I said, I didn't get a chance to take any video of that. But I do have a video here coming up of one of the key features, which was this interesting video screen, as you'll see here. Could definitely say very, very high tech. So just behind me is the CocaCola pavilion. Maybe you can see. Didn't get a chance to go in. The line was kind of long. But I'll show you a couple images I captured from the outside about corporate responsibility. And I'm not trying to be a cynic about this, but it is interesting to me to think about a lot of the companies here at the Expo and how they present themselves in terms of their commitments to biodiversity, sustainability, environmental causes, and the like. So something to think about here at the Expo 2015 in Milan. Okay, it's my fourth attempt to get inside the Coca-Cola pavilion. Been here 4 days. Lines are incredibly long. I think they give you a free sample of Coke at the end or something. So might have to skip that one and just show you some of the exterior images that I was able to capture at the Expo. Okay, so here are a few of those. And of the corporate pavilions, with the exception of Vanke, I would say Coca-Cola was definitely impressive and reminded me a little bit of the Vegas Strip and the Coca-Cola experiential store there. There's a whole tradition here also, if you think of the M&M stores in other cities around the world, New York, Vegas, of course, where you can have the brand, in a sense, bigger than life. And it's possible because of the iconic stature of some of the brands, and certainly Coke is the case. You're seeing a little more of the focus here on recycling, so try to focus on sustainability. And you'll see that later with McDonald's as well. So I was starting to queue up, and as I mentioned in the videos, I didn't want to wait too long. And so I queued, I waited maybe 10 minutes, and I did capture a few of these images to show you. But to me, it looked like it was going to be a historical rundown of Coca-Cola, the brand. Indeed, it could have been more than that, but one of the things you discover at an expo is you have to make some judgment calls just in terms of your time, and other opportunities were available, and I unfortunately had to pass up on the Coca-Cola pavilion on the inside. Okay, next up is a very small branded display of Fiat, and I'm going to talk on site about this display and how I thought it was a little bit ironic in the context of nature and culture. But as you can see here, the setup is planters for trees that are made out of objects that resemble Fiat automobiles. So here's kind of an interesting reflection on nature and culture. This Fiat section here, which is just outside the some of the natural features here, the waterways that they created, which are pretty unique. But you know, I saw this and I just thought it was a little bit ironic, this idea of planters being made out of cars. So I mean, maybe it's a way to think about some hybrid imaginations of nature, technology, and culture here at Expo 2015. And very briefly here, I have an image of a Mastercard display, and I saw this throughout the Expo. This is it. Basically, it was a Mastercard window, and you could take your picture inside of it. So this is probably ubiquitous at places like theme parks and World Expos, of course. And then next up, we have MSC Cruises. I have a couple images here, and then I'll do some on-site video in which I talk about how they utilize this space, I thought, in one of the more innovative ways in terms of some of the smaller branded pavilions that we see at the World Expo. Okay, and here we have another example of some of the branding and the corporate presence here at the World Expo. This is MSC Cruises, and you can see they've actually recreated the look of a deck, the cabana that you might get on a cruise ship, and then they also have quite a bit of information, mock-ups, and models just behind us here. As you can see here, maybe I am just leaving the McDonald's here at the Milan World Expo. And it was interesting to visit this McDonald's, and I wanted to offer you just a quick take in this video feature about the issue of conservation, which is one of the big themes here at the Expo. And what was curious to me, I'll show you just a couple images that I shot, was that the McDonald's here was actually stressing ecological issues, and so it's really in keeping with the theme of the Expo. And I'd heard actually that the inclusion of McDonald's here was somewhat controversial, and you might just think maybe about the issue of fast food and how, you know, McDonald's, in contrast with, say, the Slow Food Pavilion, which is just a bit of the ways down, how that contrasts with what you might see at McDonald's. So let me show you. Okay, and so we're just taking a look here at some of the still images, and I'll show you some video in a second of some of the menu ordering technology that's available. You know, I read some, as I have mentioned to you, I read some criticism prior to the Expo about the inclusion of McDonald's. But I think what was noble was the fact that they included a lot of information about how they're trying to be more green and sustainable. And you might know that, at least in the United States, I'm not sure about worldwide sales, but in the US, McDonald's sales are down. And so McDonald's, I think, is a brand that maybe needs to reinvent itself. I didn't get to try the McLobster, but I found this to be kind of interesting. I wonder what the price was, because certainly lobster rolls are fairly expensive. Maybe next time I'll try it. Here are the some of the video screens you see here for ordering. And also then I'm just exiting the pavilion. You can see it's very, very crowded. And one of the things that was interesting at the expo was the fact that McDonald's was crowded, as were the USA food trucks. And so a question I had was, is this the result of the dominance, the homogenization as a result of the American diet that has become so impactful on the rest of the world? And it was something that I was thinking about as I walked through McDonald's and also walked through the USA food truck section. Again, you can see here talking about water and conservation and so forth. So part of their strategy to focus on sustainability through the expo narratives. Okay, then last up today in this branded corporate overview of the World Expo is Nutella. And Nutella, I think, is, for me, a pretty beloved brand. I mean, it's hazelnut spread, very, very tasty. And I was intrigued to find this Nutella concept bar. And in addition to all the Nutella foods and sorbets and ice cream you could get, you could also purchase and look at the various Nutella branded versions that you see on hats and toys and so forth. And I thought they did a pretty cool job with this. And apparently the idea here is maybe to see how successful this concept store is, and then maybe it's something that could be in the future franchised or opened up in other venues across Europe, maybe even the United States. I'm not sure what they have in mind. So I hope you enjoyed the video feature today here on corporate and branded spaces at the World Expo 2015. Please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Worlds Handbook.